I will be the first person to openly and honestly admit that I have no clue what the moon really is. I have absolutely no idea if it's a solid sphere up there in whatever is up there, which I believe kind of the least, or if it's a reflection of what's down here, if it's a machine, if it's some form of ancient tech, if it's a luminary, if it's just a hologram, I have no idea. If I have honestly no clue, and I'm willing to learn what the truth is someday. I would love to absolutely know. And so this book is again another collection from the Aryan Sun Myths, one of the appendixes, called "The Legend of the Travels of Isis, or the Moon." So I'm curious to see if metaphorically there is some kind of explanation for this, but I do not know. I know that what we see and what we have in the technologies is one thing, and then we get randomly told and shown things otherwise. And this is in Pee-wee's Playhouse. I'm going to bring it all the way to there, where at the very beginning he wakes up and he has this spherical alarm clock of the moon with people on the inside of it like it's a machine, and the other side is the moon. That's the part that's coming over. It's kind of like a crescent now. But definitely check it out because I find it interesting. Hollywood Burton always put in some interesting, ridiculous kind of things that they seem to know the truth of and we don't. Is it some kind of crazy machine like this, manned by us or some people down here in a great beyond? Who knows? Either way, here's the text. I'm going to read this. I'm going to show some pictures of space. I'm going to show some ancient drawings, alchemical and beyond. And then I am going to show a cool eclipse video that I took in the 2016 eclipse, which makes absolutely no sense still to this day. None of it does. But maybe this will make some sense. Some metaphorical, archetypal magic. So here we go. Appendix E, The Legend of the Travels of Isis, or the Moon. The ancient Egyptians associated the moon in the universal administration of the world with the sun, and it is the former which plays the part of Isis in the sacred fable known as the history of Osiris and Isis. We are informed by Diodorus of Sicily, fellow Italian, that the first inhabitants of Egypt, while admiring the spectacle of the heavens and the wonderful order of the world, thought to perceive in heaven two principal and eternal causes, or two grand divinities, and one of them they called Osiris, or the sun, and the other Isis, or the moon. This is confirmed by Porphyrius, Chaeremon, and by other authors. The legend of Osiris and Isis has come down to us in a mutilated form, like everything, and the following is what Plutarch supposes it to have been. After his return from his travels in Egypt, Osiris was invited by Typhon, his brother and rival, to a banquet. He was put to death by the latter and his body thrown into the Nile. The sun, says Plutarch, occupied then the sign of the scorpion, and the moon was full. The latter was therefore in the sign opposite to the scorpion, in other words, in the bull, which lent its form to the equinoctial vernal sun, or to Osiris, because at that remote period the bull was the sign which corresponded to the equinox of spring. As soon as Isis was informed of the death of Osiris, she went in search of his body. She is informed by children that the coffin containing the body of her husband had been carried by the flood down to the sea, and thence to Byblos, where it stopped, that it rested quietly on a plant, which all at once had budded and put forth a splendid stem. The coffin was so completely enveloped by it that it seemed to form only one and the same body. The king of the country, astonished at the beauty of the tree, had cut it down and made out of it a column for his palace without perceiving the coffin. Isis, informed by fame, and impelled as it were by divine instinct, arrives at Byblos. Bathed in tears, she sits down near a fountain, where she remains until the women of the queen arrive. She salutes them respectfully and dresses their hair so as to emit with their bodies the fragrance of an exquisite perfume. The queen, having been informed of this, and smelling the delightful fragrance of ambrosia, desired to see the stranger. She invites Isis to come to the palace and be the nurse of her son. During the night, Isis burns all the mortal parts of the child's body. I don't like that. At the same time, she metamorphoses herself into a swallow. She flutters around the column and fills the air with her plaintive cries, until the queen, who had observed her, shrieks with horror at the sight of her son in flames. This scream breaks the charm which would have given immortality to the infant. The goddess then made herself known and requested that the precious column should be given up to her. She took easily from it the body of her husband by disengaging the coffin from the wood which covered it. She veiled it with a light tissue which she perfumed with essences. Afterwards she restored to the king and to the queen this envelope of foreign wood, which was deposited in the temple of Isis at Byblos. The goddess then approached the coffin, bathing it with tears, and uttered such a terrific scream that the youngest son of the king died of terror. Isis took the oldest one with her and embarked on board of a vessel, taking with her the precious coffin. But towards morning, a somewhat strong wind having risen on the river Phaedrus, it made her stop suddenly. Isis retires aside, and supposing herself alone, she opens the coffin, and pressing her lips on those of her husband, she kisses and bedews him with her tears. The young prince, whom she had brought along with her, approached her stealthily from behind with as little noise as possible, and spied her movements. The goddess perceived it, and turning around suddenly, she gives him such a terrible look that he dies of terror. She embarks again and returns to Egypt near her son Horus, who was brought up at Butos, and she deposits the corpse in a retired place. Typhon, having gone hunting at night, discovers the coffin, and having recognized the corpse, he cuts it into 14 pieces, which he throws around in all directions. The goddess, having seen it, goes to collect these scattered pieces. She buries each one in the place where she had found it. However, of all the parts of the body of Osiris, the only one which she could not find was that of generation. In place of it, she substitutes the phallus, which was its image and which was consecrated to the mysteries. Some time afterwards, Osiris returned from the infernal regions to the rescue of his son Horus, and placed him in a condition to defend him. He mounted him, some say on a horse, others on a wolf. Typhon was vanquished. Isis let him escape. Horus felt indignant on that account, and took from his mother her diadem, but Mercurius gave her in its place a helmet in the shape of a bull's head. Dupois gives comparative pictures of the legend in the state of the heavens from the time when the sun has quitted our hemisphere and left to the moon, then full, the reign of the long nights, until the time when it repasses to our climes. And it says, see Origin of All Religions Belief, pages 99 to 107. So maybe we'll check that out again for some further insight, because that story was definitely very symbolic, had a lot of horoscopic language in it, and even the part when it talks about the 14, it's kind of interesting because there's 14 pretty much days of the moon. I guess if it's 28 days in a cycle around, then that would make 14 half of it, the pieces that it's split into, and very, very bizarre, interesting. Again, what is this moon? What is the black part that you can see covering it? The eclipsing part that can be seen on normal nights, really, when you look up there and you see it covering a certain part. Is it a shadow? Is it a regenerating process? Is it kind of like, sometimes it makes me think that it's an electrical process of some kind, or a charging, and it goes and it sweeps over it. And then maybe when an eclipse occurs, it's something else. It's charging it in a different way, or something is kind of eclipsing it, another lens of some sort that adds a different hue to it and is bigger. Or the shadow of Maru on it could explain eclipses. I really don't know. There's so much to possibly think. And these are some Tibetan gods. Chandra, goddess of the moon, Aztec, Maya, they all have their own different goddesses to the moon. Every different culture has their own different story. But none of them ever truly explain, or seem to explain, what the moon is, how it is there, why it is there. It's a lot of interesting facts about the moon decomposing and being a little cooler at different temperatures, than having a cooling effect, and the cycles that it aligns with women. It is just a truly magical thing, whatever it is. And I love the theories as well about the moon being a reflection of what's down here. And if that were some form of lens, then that does make sense, some form of reflective thing, because, again, they always tell us that the sun's light shining on the moon, but anyone that's thinking outside the box knows that that is a luminary. It is lit up of its own accord somehow, because there are times when the sun and moon are in the sky at the same time and the shadows don't make sense. It's not a gradually changing thing that kind of changes in regards to the way the sun looks. It always appears to be kind of doing its own course, which is kind of, again, very one of the factors that has to be taken in, because I'm convinced that such science, the science we've come to be propagandized by, utilizes the fact that once you embed something in so many people, they think of it a certain way and never think of it any other way. So that's why they've still convinced our parents' generation that they went up to the moon, and they can't replicate the technology now, even though the computer and the entire NASA at the time was like not nearly as powerful as the one that's on my table right now. So but our parents' generation can't admit the faults there. And how many other times has that happened throughout this last reset, and things that we've been ingrained in us that we just might be totally different. So that's why I do like that reflection theory about it shining back on us, and maybe we're seeing one of those craters. We are inside that crater. And stay tuned for more on that topic, because I've got a new artwork coming out that is going to blow your minds. It's a cool psychedelic vision that I'm going to twist in a very interesting way, and it's kind of one of my universal theories, but in a very just unique vision. I can't wait to show you guys. But this again is the August 2016 eclipse, where I was in Medfield, Massachusetts on this day. And every time you go in Massachusetts, any type of celestial event occurs. There's clouds, there's nonsense. They pump crazy stuff out. God knows what they were pumping out this day, because look at the colors. But I've always even taken that into effect. Like, I don't know, the sky that day had a lot of colors. And was it what Massachusetts, a chemical dump that they constantly pour into the sky? Is that what I was seeing? Or was it something that was created from the light of the eclipse? Because this is the stage that it was at during this particular day. And to keep in mind, again, the sun is beaming. This was in the afternoon in August. So it just doesn't make any sense why the Earth's shadow would be upon this. And just none of it makes sense. It's all so weird. This, to me, when I was observing it at this time, seemed like it was a machine, that something was happening. It was getting like reset, retooled. They were maybe turning the lights off that hadn't been, hadn't been shut off in a while, like a reset of a computer or something. When you have to, it's been on too long, and you gotta do some repairs or something. Or it was blocked by a different luminary. I really don't know. I just love entertaining all the different possibilities, because there are so many possibilities. What they tell us just cannot be the truth, because they definitely didn't go up there in the 60s. China definitely didn't go up there before. There's something weird about it. The Shining and the whole conspiracy there, showing Danny in his Apollo 11 shirt, and the symbolism of that movie hiding that Kubrick maybe have filmed it, or that someone in general filmed it, the moon landings, and faked it. And if they faked it, everything based on that is totally fraudulent, which I believe. And what is it like? If are they really going up there? I remember there was one time when people were seeing different vessels that were close to the moon, and they were like going around and doing things, and people had spotted them on their really good cameras. And it was during this time actually of the eclipse, so which boggled my mind again. It really, it made me wonder so much. And this was again in August 2016, when everything was changing, and kind of good seemed to be taking over. So it was a weird transition that almost, is biblical and weird in its own weird way. But again, enjoy this old school video. I decided to dig it up for this particular one. ISIS and the moon, their thoughts. I don't know why they named ISIS what they did, that terror organization, like what their purpose is behind that. I think I had thought of some theories a while back, but haven't thought about that in a really long time. In general, moon myths, maybe there's an ancient moon myth from some tribe or something that explains it best. Maybe there's some remnant lasting in some untouched tribe, or in some Smithsonian somewhere buried, or in just all of their knowledge from these other people that hide it from us. Or if beyond the poles they know the answer, maybe they're the ones maintaining it up there. if this world is more massive than everyone tells us it is, and there is much land beyond the poles, chances are they may be seeing that too. They may have their own luminary, or they may have put it up. They may be maintaining it. It may be there to spy on us, maybe reflect back to them, be a decoy for something else, something else that watches us, some other maybe outpost up there, anything. I'm willing to believe absolutely anything. So definitely share your comments below. And that's the thing, until someone like Elon or any of these rich guys can be like, boom, camera from Earth to the moon, this is what it looks like. Ding dong, we've got the technology, this is it, done. Here's the look back at Earth, it's a sphere. Until any of that stuff happens, I'm not believing it. And even when it does, I'll be skeptical. But one of those people, since they claim to believe in it, these powerful people, they should be able to prove it. And until they can, I am going to fill the world with potential for what that thing up there is and could be. And even the full moon power of the tides, I don't know if I've totally seen that. I've studied that for a little bit, but I'm not sure if I totally believe that they're incredibly connected. They probably are, but maybe not as well. But the fact that the way people act on the full moon, I also find very interesting. Some of the symbolism between the typical types of moon, like the red moon or the pink moon or the badger moon, are all very interesting. I had one story with my wife we were talking about the other day. We went hiking during a full beaver moon, it was called. I forget what month it was. It was early in our relationship. And we were walking across a golf course at like midnight in a full moon. We were having a blast. And all of a sudden, I looked down at my feet. At one point, we were standing in the golf course, and there was a beaver head, a severed beaver head at my feet on the beaver moon. And I flipped it over with a stick, and it was just a head. It blew my mind. But things like that happen in this world. And is that a sign of it being more of a matrix-like, or synchronicities are just everywhere when you're ready to receive them, and when the world is willing to grant you them? Or are we just in this amazing miracle that if you pay attention, the best things happen? And maybe this moon has a power like that. Maybe it has a power to change our thoughts, and maybe it's keeping us from, like the moon and the sun's powers are even keeping us from losing our mind while these power-hungry monsters dump chemicals on us that you can see in this various colors of this sky right here, and pretty much any day over Massachusetts. When you look, a lot of times you see those cirrus clouds, you can see a lot of colors in them. Sometimes they're the reflection, definitely, but other times they look like oil stains in the sky. And these clouds were really awesome this day. It almost didn't even make sense. It was like a very celestially magical day. And I don't know what way to describe it, but seeing this and seeing this process pass, even though I couldn't see the full thing, was just very powerful. And I remember, look back into the August 2016 eclipse, because it made no sense the way it crossed over America, the direction it took, the size it was, the area it covered. It was something bizarre. And ever since then, I've really, really stepped up my absolute cluelessness on what the moon is. So, hey, if any of you have been out there, any of you have any secret books or secret knowledge, tell me. Please share with us what the moon is. Got any good links to any other people? Check it out and post it below. And stay tuned again for the art that I've got coming up. This incredible vision. I've decided to do some other kinds of incredible visions. So stay tuned, you guys. I've got some cool stuff coming. And just enjoy the rest of this eclipse and some jams for a minute. And bless you all.